The Union Cabinet has now approved 8th Pay Commission, and its implementation is scheduled to be on 1st of January 2026. The Commission is expected to drastically change the pay system for central government employees in the country. The purpose of this commission is to update pensions, allowance and pay scales in accordance with the current economic conditions, inflation and the changing demands of public servants. With the union budget set to be presented in 2025 February, this announcement provides government workers with a financial cushion ahead of the financial year's economic goals. Let's open up this discussion. Joining me on the telecast is Dr. Ajay Dua, former Commerce Secretary. Dr. Dua, every decade there is an adjustment after the 8th Pay Commission or the 7th Pay Commission or the 6th Pay Commission, and the previous times pay commissions have been adjusted, they have been announced, and this time around, if we take a look at the multiplier that has been used, the key multiplier, the increase is going to be to the tune of 3 times the current salary. Does this reflect the inflation rate in the country in the last 10 years?
I'm not sure. Megha, first, thank you for having me on the show. Second, that what are the terms of reference of the pay commission? Those have yet to be made known. That will be, there will be a degree of definitiveness on what specifically is being referred to to this particular pay commission. That having been said, we can only go by what has been done in the past by the 7th Pay Commission, which was headed by Justice Mathur, and the earlier pay commissions. In those, they had brought in the concept for the very first time of something called the fitment factor. Fitment factor was, what is your existing salary and take home existing salary, which was including of the allowances, basic salary plus the allowance, and then multiply it by a certain factor. In the 6th Pay Commission, it was a multiplication factor of 1.86. In the last Pay Commission, the 7th, it is 2.57. The expectation, it's just an expectation of the All India Employees Federation, which has been chasing the government to announce the constitution of the new Pay Commission. When they met the Finance Secretary on behalf of the Federation and the Finance Secretary on behalf of the Union Government, they requested that the fitment allowance this year be made 2.8. So right. I think where you are coming from, that it is likely to be 3, it is because of the demand which has been made. Now, whether that happens or not, that's left to the Commission.
Okay.
But going by what has happened in the past, I would think that the fitment factor will continue to be on an upward increase, having come up from 1.86 to 2.57, and could well be 2.8, what the Staff Federation is demanding, in which case it is a huge bump up from both for the minimum salary, because minimum salary in the last Pay Commission was 18,000. That way, if it is multiplied by 2.8, it becomes 42,400, and the max salary given to just one person, that's the cabinet secretary, 2.5.
Yes, Dr. Sharad Kohli, I'll come to you. And what is this indicative of? That there has been a massive bump, as Dr. Ajay Dua said, that it's a bump of 2.85, the key multiplier that is going to allow for the salaries to triple. And does this become a factor or an indicator of how the economy is functioning?
Well, good afternoon, Megha, and good afternoon to my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. I think it's going to be, first of all, a huge boost to the consumption, Megha, because we've seen an economic slowdown from 8.2 to 6.4 as compared to last year. So we needed money to be pumped into the pockets of the people. So at least these 50 lakh employees, and of course, about 65 lakh pensioners. So add another 5 family members. So 5 to 6 crore people being benefited by this pay commission starting 1/1/26. That's one aspect. But a very important aspect as far as economy is concerned, Megha, is that this is going to put a fiscal load. On the other side, I think there is an important aspect which a lot of people are missing. There are 9.64 lakhs which are jobs which are still vacant as far as central government is concerned. Now, the people who are raising this issue that why is 9.64 lakh vacancies not being filled up? Well, my answer to that is maybe some of them are not being filled up because of employability or finding the right kind of talent and so on and so forth. But the fact of the matter is that because of the technology creeping into the government system also, we've seen blockchain technology, we've seen artificial intelligence, we've seen Internet of Things. Because of these technology aspects walking into the government machinery, the demand for as many jobs which used to be traditionally there is definitely not there at this point of time. So I'm not sure if 9.64 because and the government, the problem before the government is they cannot cancel out these jobs because that will become a political issue. That is a very sensitive issue. So this is one reason, because if somebody was saying that these jobs are not being filled up because the government doesn't want to load its exchequer, then the answer to that is that how did it manage to give a, from 1,126, how will it bear the fiscal load of, let's say, 3 times or 2.8 times the basic salary? So the fact of this is bringing to the surface the fact, Megha, that this is now a case of lot of jobs which are vacant. They are probably not needed because the government is if the government is functioning fine, if the operations are all right, why do we need to zabardasti fill up the jobs which do not exist at this point of time?
Okay.
So therefore, my response to this is it's a welcome move. It will boost consumption. It will raise the standard of living of the employees, and I hope that efficiency also walks into some of the government offices because now that they'll be handsomely paid, Megha.
Yeah, I think those are very important points. Sumit Peer, let's try to also understand, the per capita income that was also mentioned by Sharad Kohli is then going to substantially increase when it comes to government employees. How is this going to impact the country's growth, the economy's growth in the larger sphere of things?
You see, Megha ji, first of all, it's a very welcome move because it was quite due. And if you look at now, there are 2-3 important things which people must understand. One is which Dua Sahab rightly brought it. Earlier, the salary was 18,000. Now it is going to be 41,000, more than double. That's one point. The average increase in the salary
it's going to be almost 3 times, 2.87. Yeah. So that's almost 3 times the salary that you were earning.
No, that is basically on the basic, but on the overall impact. Let's say the minimum salary in government was 18,000, now it will be 41,000. So double se zyada ho gaya. That's point number one. The expected increase at the overall package level, which you will get, is around 34 to 50% across board. I'm talking about. Third thing, which is very important, is it will be a very simplified salary structure because if you look at the new taxation system, it's a very simplified taxation system, the new tax regime. So the salary structure is made fitting that tax structure so that people get more money. Fourth and the important point is that, today we are facing a bit of a slump in our economy due to less consumption at the urban level. Now, these all government employees, 1.5 crores, 1.15 crores and their families and all, they basically live in the urban pockets. That's where most of the people are concentrated. Now, if there's 5-6 crore people start getting this more money, so that will increase the disposable income. It includes people who are retired government servants. It includes people who are retired from the army. It includes people who are retired from various government affiliated corporations and are eligible for a pension. So with a pensioner, with a working professional or a retired professional, the amount of disposable money in your hands is going to increase. So what is that money going to do? Either you will go and buy something like a LIC, bonds, mutual fund share, or you will start consuming the money. So in whichever way you look at it, the money coming with their people is again going to go and hit the economy and create more jobs. Create more consumption, and whatever the sluggishness we're feeling a little bit, with 6 crore people having, entitlement to a lot of more money and living in the urban pockets will increase the consumption. That increase of consumption will create more things, will create more jobs. And last time, the cost of the last pay commission was 1 trillion rupees. Now, this 1 trillion rupees, don't confuse it with dollars. So this time is going to be much higher than that. So that means our economy is in a condition where we can take a much higher burden and still our balance sheet or our budget hilega nahi. And much before the budget, so means it's accounted for. This money will be accounted for in this budget to be payable next year. That's important.
All right. Dr. Dua, then, one big question arises is how much is it going to cost the exchequer? And second question, this increase, the bump that has been made in the announcement that has been done by the cabinet, is it the biggest bump, that increase in percentage of salary that we have seen in the past 76 years of our independence?
Megha, it is a guesswork whether the the pay commission would recommend a 2.8 factor or a 2.57, which was given last time, because neither the Union Minister for Information Broadcasting, who addressed the press post the cabinet yesterday, talked of any particular figure. And I heard him very carefully, was that the pay commission is being set up. It was due, and the Union Cabinet led by the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has taken this call to to set up this commission. That in the seventh for the seventh pay commission, it was set up about 18 to 19 months before the date it was due. They set it up in April 2004. It was set up by Dr. Manmohan Singh while he was still the Prime Minister in January 2014. And it came into effect on 1st January 2016.
Right.
So, first point I want to make, Megha, here, just bear with me for a second, please, is that whether it will come into force on 1st January 2026 or not is entirely left to the pay commission's recommendations and the government taking a call on it. Government has to look at its own kitty and then decide, and the pay commission can recommend that it need not be from 1st January 2026, it may be from April, it may be a following year, because there is no statutory basis. Let me repeat, there is no statutory basis for the pay commission or a constitutional basis like the finance commission, etc. So this is all, we are all in a field of conjectures. But now coming to the more important point which you raised, is it going to be the largest bump up in terms of the government's outflow? Yes. Every pay commission has been giving out more than the previous one. When the first one was set up in 1946, prior to independence, the minimum salary at that time was rupees 30. The second one made it 50 rupees, then 70 rupees. When I had joined the service, it was 150 rupees was the minimum salary. The maximum salary in my time was 20,000 rupees for the cabinet secretary. Otherwise, other secretaries retired at 18,000. And look at every pay commission thereafter has gone higher than the previous. The fitment formula, which is easy to calculate, etc., about simplification, about which Sumit very rightly talked about, is saying whatever you are getting before the pay commission, if the pay commission says 2.8 times, very easy for the accountants to sanction your salary, multiply it by 2.8 times, and that becomes the start. Thereafter, that dearness allowance, which is to set off the inflation, keeps on choosing that as the basic, 2.5% this quarter.
Correct. Yes.
Year. So it becomes, so the government outflow will definitely be more, whatever is the date finally when it becomes effective from.
Okay.
And let me mention that last time it was a very first year in 2016, a provision had to be made for 1.03 lakh crores.
Okay.
For meeting the fitment of 2.57. Now with a fitment of 2.8 and a larger base, thus I don't think we are discussing whether those 9 lakh posts will be filled up or not. That's an issue separate altogether. They are required or not. We are talking about the 49 lakh estimated people in the government of India already. They are entitled to it, plus all the employees of union territories. In Delhi alone, there are 5 lakh persons who work for the Delhi government, so they are additional. Similarly, the other 5 union territories or 6. And also, this is made applicable to the public sector undertakings, 250 of them owned by the central government. Finally, the banks, public sector bank employees also. Both these factors become a base for them when the revision of PSU employees'
Right,
salaries.
sir. Yes, you already mentioned. You already mentioned that. I'm going to come back to you, Dr. Kohli, and my question is now: how does the government decide that there has to be an adjustment of salary, an increase of salary, a salary hike that is to be given to the government employees only after a period of 10 years? Can it be reduced to a period of 5 years? And who makes the decisions? How do we come to the conclusion?
Well, Megha, let me first clarify what Mr. Dua was saying, that why I referred to the vacant position is because we want to do a comparative comparison of the fiscal load of increase vis-a-vis filling up the new vacancies. That was the only point of raising. There was no other point of raising. Coming back to your question, Megha, there are three principal bases which are taken for this fitment factor as to how does the government decide. I'll answer the first part of the question first. One is the inflation. Now, inflation, if you see over the last few years, the average inflation as per my calculation as an economist comes to about 6%. Now, if you count as 6%, that's the first factor. Second factor is the economic outlook. That how's the economic outlook of the country at the global level, at the domestic level, at that point of time, number two. And number three, and a very important aspect, is the fiscal load. We were talking of over 1 lakh crore. I expect this load it can easily go up to from 1.5 lakh crore to 2 lakh crore if 2.8 or above fitment factor is taken, considering the number of people and considering that the pay scales have gone up from then and now. So that is the basis of calculating. More the merrier as far as employees are concerned. You said, can it be done sooner? Why not? Because inflation is in the private sector, the employees get annual appraisals.
Right.
Why can't the government employees get annual appraisals? So the shorter it becomes, the better it is. I feel it should be done annually, but maybe because it's a painful exercise, it's a very, very tricky exercise. I think bringing it down to 5 years in the current scenario would be a very sensible proposition, because 10 years is a very long time.
Yeah,
you know,
but also,
because,
you know,
also the economic level is very dynamic.
Salary hike. Let's also, you know, take a look at the brass tacks, because the salary hike for a government employee after 10 years becomes 3 times, 2.5 times, 3 times versus when you're receiving a salary hike and appraisal in a private organization. You know, the bump is usually averaged at around 10 to 12% of your salary. So those factors need to be kept into account. Sumit, then, you know, another important question that piques my curiosity is how do we compare ourselves to other developed nations, whether it's China, United States of America, other European nations, Germany, France? There are salary revisions that also happen in their countries for the government employees. Are we up to speed with the percentage of salary increase that happens in all these other nations?
I think, Meghaji, that has two answers. First of all, if you look at the percentage increase, we might look very good and fancy. But if you compare it with what is the salary average government servant takes in a, say, look at a cabinet secretary, look at somebody in United States or Europe, or if you want to compare with Singapore, there's no comparison what the government servants and the people there get. There is absolutely no comparison. And most of it is tax-free. So it depends in which country you want to benchmark it. But broadly speaking, if you want to benchmark it with the Western world, I think still our salaries in the government sector are pretty less. I mean, they are not comparable with what their peers get in the Europe and America and all, and the facilities, benefits and perks which they get associated with it. You can be in a very good posh bungalow in a Lutyens Delhi, but at the end of the day, you might even want to live in a flat if you get more money in your pocket. The Lutyens is good to have, but again, what is the money you have? Look, people have growing kids. They have to marry their daughters, they have to marry their sons, grandsons, so shadi, bihah, sab kuch hota hai. So when in these circumstances, waiting for a 10 years to see by 10 saal baad tankha badegi is not fair. And if you want to really benchmark it, we should take an average of the top 5 countries, top 5 economies of the world, because we are in top 5 anyway. Do a benchmarking vis-a-vis that and start paying our government servants and including our politicians and including our people on those lines.
Okay.
Because we are in top 5 everywhere. Bhai, यहाँ salary में नीचे वाले 25 में नहीं हो सकते ना. We can't be in bottom 25. If we are in top 5, we say everywhere we are top 5, 2 5. तो यहाँ भी we have to come up in that top 5 and, you know, let's pay the people who deserve what they are, and the country can afford. There's no problem.
Fair enough. Important point made. Dr. Dua, before I wrap this up, concluding remarks, an increase in salary, more disposable income, better lifestyle, would this then also impact the way the country performs? When it comes to, we talk about, when we talk about bureaucrats, we go to all these government offices and say, it takes a really long time. It would take hours together, days together sometimes to get your work done. There are also a lot of times that, these government officials, the government servants have to be bribed to a large extent. Do you think all these problems can be resolved by way of ensuring that there are regular adjustments, revisions in salaries that are made by the government?
Megha, I think the answer is not as straightforward. It will be a mixed reply of mine, having seen the government from close quarters for almost 40 years. I would say that salary is just one aspect of what the government's treatment of the civil servants or the employees should be. First, we are a very large bureaucracy, hugely heavier than in many other countries of the world. When we talk of Singapore, and I'm talking from Singapore right now, I'm sitting there, the government, the bureaucracy here is far more efficient, performance oriented, and with the slightest of hint of corruption, malpractice, the government servant is out of the job and probably prosecuted, even if you happen to be a minister of the nation. Currently, a case against a minister of transport of the country for just getting seats in the Formula One race from a contract from an organizer has cost him a job. That's an additional, it later came out. He had also paid for his flight from Singapore to Dubai.
Okay.
But man goes. I'm saying there is need to increase the salary, but that can come about only when the staff is less and not increased.
Okay.
Let the vacancies be there. After all, the technology is bound to impact the base level of employment. That's number one. Second, why can't we link staying in the government service with performance? It's not government service you enter.
Yeah,
and stay
absolutely.
40
Yes.
years. 40 years, nobody can fire you. I am not for it. Whether you belong to the IAS or any other service, there have to be reviews of performance, suitability after every few years. If that happens, we can certainly make the compensation structure more robust than what it is. But if there is no hire and fire allowed, there is corruption can continue, which you refer to, because everybody is considered to be honest till proved otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are the males of a government job. There are pros, because a number of people would say, oh, if we get a government job, then our pension is ascertained. It is a certainty. We will never get fired from the job. We can be lax, we can be lazy, we might take days off, and really doesn't matter, because nobody is there to question you about your performance. And of course, talking about corruption, because lesser the pay, you are then tempted to make money from other nefarious ways. On that note, I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast, and thanks for watching NewsX.